Hello again. I've spent my day today watching the news, and I saw a lot of talk about what's going on our southern border. And I heard one person, I forget who it was, but they looked at the person they were interviewing and said, "But illegal immigrants are not criminals. Not all of them are criminals." And I got to thinking, wait a minute, there there is a law that you cannot cross our borders without permission, without consent. So I did a little research and I got a few notes here. And according to Title 8 of the United States Legal Code, Section 1325, it is illegal to cross the United States border at any point that is not specified by the Immigration Service. But it's for violating it's a misdemeanor. But then you go a little bit further, and if it's a repeat offense, 1320 section 1326 says it's a felony. So it's a crime. You break one of our laws. I looked in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. I looked up criminal. One who has committed a crime. Okay, so these people come across our border, breaking our laws. So they've committed a crime, but we're not supposed to consider them criminals. If I broke a law, and I did it, in some cases, they do it many times. If I did that, I would be labeled a criminal. So I don't understand where this person was saying that they're not all criminals. Well, yes, they are. They all broke our laws, some of them numerous times, and they should not be allowed in our country. We don't want criminals in our country. If they want to seek asylum, they can go to a port of entry, which now includes, I mean, Chicago is a port of entry, and it's nowhere near a border. Denver is a port of entry. Minneapolis is a port of entry, and they all have border um, customs and border agents in the airports. All along, I know along the Canadian border, there's just about every road that crosses into the United States from Canada, there's customs agents. And the same is true of our southern border. And you in order to come into the United States, you have to go through those ports. And the another thing that's been said is that they're just seeking asylum. There's a legal way. We have set up laws so that there is a legal way for somebody who is coming from a war torn or crime ridden or um, um, crime ridden area. If they want to seek asylum from that crime ridden area, they they can do that legally. Yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but that's part of what government is for control. We don't just want a flood like we have right now, or we did have. The changing of the president seems to have kind of curtailed the amount of people coming across our border because they're implementing the law. Don't get me wrong, I'm not anti immigrant. I come from a family of immigrants, but my family came here through ports of entry. My Norwegian ancestors came through Ellis Island. One section of my family, they were here when the colonies were still colonies. So they were here before the United States was ever thought of. My my ex-wife came over here as an immigrant. She was married to me, but she now has her citizenship. The, there's a legal way to do it. It takes longer and probably costs a little bit more, but there's no doubt. There's no doubt that you have come across legally, and if you plan on staying here, you are going through the procedure to become a naturalized citizen. It's it's just the rule of law. And the rule of law is meant to organize and structure a society. Now there's a big controversy about deporting all these illegal aliens. One of the big phrases that I've heard is, "Who's going to pick our fruit? Who's going to clean our hotels? Who's going to do the jobs that Americans just won't do?" I'm sorry, I think we've forgotten where Americans came from. There was a time that there was no job that an American would not do. We have we've gotten complacent. We've gotten spoiled. And yeah, our businesses and our corporations and all that, they played right into it. I can remember as a kid, you were always hearing about immigration raids, where back then I forget what the immigration and naturalization. would go into a place, and anyone that was undocumented, that could not prove that they had come to this country legally, they were packed up and shipped out, sent back to where they came from. Next time, go through a port of entry. Do it legally. Now we have ICE. And that's part of the penalty for breaking our laws. In fact, that deportation is the penalty for breaking this specific law. Sections 1325 and 1326. If you let just anyone into our country without finding out, well, what did you do in your former country? Why are you leaving your former country? Who are you? Where are you from? Those are natural questions. If they go and find out that, yeah, this guy was let out of prison a week ago down in Bolivia, well, why was he in prison? Well, we got to vet them. We got to find out who they are, where they come from, what their intentions are. During the height of the flood across the border, we had people from terrorist organizations that were mingling in with all the people coming from Central and South America. Well, a lot of them, why would you bring people into your country from an organization whose sole purpose is to kill you? And I'm not saying all these immigrants are wanting to harm us. I'm not saying that. We used to call, in the Marine Corps, we used to call the 10% rule. There's the 10% that screw it up for everyone else. But if you have 10 people come across the border, 9 of them may be just looking for a better way of life. That's fine. But that one person who decides, and especially from the Middle East, decides, well, I'm just going to strap a bomb to my chest and walk through a crowded shopping mall. Well, how many people does he kill with that action? That's the 10%. That 10% screws it up for everybody else. And that is part of the reason why we need the laws. We need these laws, and we need to adhere to them. We need to put teeth in them. And it goes throughout all our laws. But for some reason, and it seems like the vast majority of the ones complaining about oh, this is unfair to these immigrants who are just looking for a better way of life, they seem to mostly come from the left, from the Democratic Party. We've let things get out of control. And now, when somebody finally stands up and says, "No, we're going to stop doing this. We're going to stop shooting ourselves in the foot or the knee or wherever else we're shooting ourselves, and we're going to put teeth to our laws." I hope it's not too late. I've seen on the news they're rounding them up left and right. Chicago just had a big raid. Um, they're rounding them up, which it should be. That's according to our laws. We can't pick and choose the laws that we want to adhere. You can't if you're driving on a road that's marked 55 and you're doing 80. That don't. No, that's just a suggestion. No, it's not. It's a law. We need that law. You know, and when it comes to people coming into our country, we have laws. We need to adhere to those laws. Otherwise, things get really messed up, and they have been. Sometimes I live in a college town, and there's no bigger breeding ground for the left side of the aisles, how we say. They deal in feelings. Well, I'm sorry. The justice system, in my opinion, justice system should not only be blind, but it should be numb. You know the law, live by it. If you don't, you're going to pay the consequences. I've done it. I've made infractions on the law, and I paid my penalty. But if we just start saying, "Oh, you know, give him a mulligan," you know, he didn't mean it until he does it again. The law is meant to bring order to our society, but as soon as you start throwing out, ignoring the law, you don't bring order to the society. You bring chaos. That's the other end of the spectrum. And that's why we have a court system to see which, you know, you're judged by your society. If you're found to be guilty of the crimes, so be it. You pay your penalty. But we seem to want to just let people in and you know just have free will. No, you have to have order to the society, otherwise you have chaos. But the closest thing I think that we can come to chaos is a battlefield. I've seen that. I would not want to live in it. Everyone just killing anyone. Where your penalty for just being there is death. That's not what we want in our country, in our society. I The new president, I feel, is doing an excellent job. He's his I mean, he's only been in a week, but he's made more positive gains than the last one did in 4 years. We had 4 years where law didn't matter. Every time you turned around, you had some other bank of lawyers just making their own laws, judges making their own laws. We can't have that. A lot of our problem is we have laws on the books, we just don't enforce them. And a lot of times we have frivolous laws. But personally, I'm okay with what's going on with what the new president is doing. I encourage it. But with a side note, be careful. You know, don't push the pendulum too far, because the outcome on that side is just as bad as the outcome on this side. Be careful how far you push. Because one way to look at it, as far as politically, I've always thought that's a giant pendulum. You know, you have all the way on the right, or all the way on the right. You have, if you have the when people say conservative, what they're talking about is conservative use of governmental power. Less government is better. But if you go too far, where there's no government control, you have anarchy and chaos. But you go all the way to the other side, where it's a liberal use of governmental control, of governmental power. Then you end up with totalitarianism. And you end up with Nazis, for a term that's been bandied about lately. Nazis were left leaning. They were total government control. We don't want that. But we don't want no government control. There's a fine line to get that pendulum right in the middle. But we've got a two-party system, and each one takes a hand at swatting that pendulum again, whichever direction it goes. But that's part of the reason we have that two-party system. I'm of a mind with Washington, who warned us against involving party politics. You know, all that does is divide people. I'm I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I call myself more a libertarian. I do tend to lean towards the Republican side of things, but only to a point. Because too much of a good thing is still bad. You can still overdose on penicillin. Well, that's what I thought of today. Um, if you like what you're hearing, give me a like, subscribe, whatever. Um, leave a comment. I'm open to a wide range of topics, and if I don't know about the topic you mentioned, I can find something out about it. I, like I said, I've kind of grown into Google, but that's my 2 cents worth, or as I usually say, that's me in a nutshell. But I'm coming up on a half an hour here, so I'm thinking I'll let you go. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. So until next time, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. I wish you all a good day, happy New Year, a good day, and Semper Fi.